PSCU is really invested in financial inclusion, and we see the connection here and making it all happen. Super excited to see all these faces here today and be part of the panel.
Thank you, Mary. Kevin?
Hello, everyone. Good morning from the West Coast. My name is Kevin Martin, and I am a Senior Vice President at Schools First Federal Credit Union, where we serve school employees and their families. I am also the president of the West Coast chapter of the AACUC, and I am a graduate of the summer 2018 class for the DEs. And I know everybody always says best class ever, but we were truly the greatest class to ever be given the title of DEs. And I would like to just say one more thing. These are difficult discussions, and I think that we should always give the benefit of the doubt and assume positive intent when people are willing to get into the arena, be vulnerable, and share their perspective. I think that's true of everyone, but I think that's particularly true when we're talking about racism and we're talking about the acts that have occurred on Black bodies, and those who choose to participate in the discussion are not Black. I just want to let you know that I appreciate you, and I hope that everybody on the line appreciates them as well. So thank you for the time, Michelle.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. And now we'll move to Angela Prestil.
Well, hello, everyone. Greetings from Madison, Wisconsin. I am Angela Prestel. I am a speaker, consultant, and trainer for a couple different companies, CU Difference and FI Strategies. And most recently, I am Special Assistant to the CEO, Ms. Renee Sadie-White for AACUC. So delighted to be working with this team and delighted to be with you all today. I'm going to be bringing a little bit of the rainbow perspective and what the LGBTQIA population has been going through, in addition to the folks that are in the front lines with the Black Lives Matter movement, who are people of color. So that's why I'm here, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Angela. Let's move now to LaTanya.
I'm the loan manager at GPO Federal Credit Union. I'm a graduate of the spring class of 2011. Best class ever. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to sit on the panel today and discuss these difficult topics. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. And now, last but not least, we're going to have Chad. And Chad, while you are introducing yourself, can you please also speak about the DE and what it stands for?
Can do. Thanks, Michelle. And it's good to be here. My name is Chad Helmanack. I'm with the National Credit Union Foundation, where I'm the Director of Development Education and Cooperative Culture. And I went through the DE program in 2009 myself, and that was a transformational experience for me. I've been in credit unions for almost 15 years. Since going through that program, I've been trying to live true to what I learned at the training. And now what I consider my dream job, I have it leading the DE program. So I'm proud of the history of DE program. For those of you who aren't DEs yet, don't be freaked out. I say yet, because someday we're going to have you there. And I'll talk a little bit about the program, but I just wanted to first off thank Renee and everyone with AACUC for giving us a platform to talk about how DE intersects with these really important topics. So a bit about the DE program, kind of the 30-second elevator pitch. It's our signature program at the National Credit Union Foundation, and it's been around for almost 40 years. And we've had more than 2,000 credit union employees and volunteers go through the program over the years. It's had a lot of history we can talk about, but to summarize what the program is and always has been, it's about understanding the unique issues that members are facing, both here in the US and globally. These are what we call development issues. So it's sometimes outside of the realm of what we consider credit union business. This is environment, this is housing and hunger and diversity, equity, inclusion. A lot of topics that are absolutely in our wheelhouse. And during our training, which we would typically hold in Madison, Wisconsin 4 times a year, things are a little different these days, we invite 48 credit union leaders from around the country and world to come and talk about these development issues. And then we ask, how as credit unions can we live our purpose and our values and find unique ways to help our members solve for these development issues? And we talk about empathy, and we talk about leveraging our superpowers as credit unions and individuals who work in them. So there's beyond our program, it's grown globally. So Renee gave a shout out to George Ambato, who's on here, who runs the Africa DE program. We're proud that DE has had such a success in the US and globally as well. So happy to answer any questions as we go, but DE is about living our purpose. And I'm so glad to see so many DEs here today on the panel. And for those of you who are yet to be DEs, we'll see you someday.
Right. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. And so, you know, if we were having this meeting in person instead of via Zoom, I would have a huge cake for all of you with the best class ever, right? Because every DE class, it just keeps getting better and better. So we're happy to have all of you. And as everyone can see today, our panel looks extremely different from the panels that we have had in prior weeks. And as it said in the chat already, that these are superstars, and that's why they're here today, because they are superstars, because they do care, because they are committed to change, which is what AACUC is all about. And it's a very inclusive panel today, the inclusive organization. So again, welcome, and we thank you. So as credit union development educators, you are trained to help the credit union understand and leverage the credit union's unique business, the model to serve its members and to serve its communities. So today in your answers, we are looking for how you make this a better credit union industry, and how do we make our communities better than what they were. So now my first question will be, how has your DE certification helped you deal with social injustice? And I'm going to throw that first to Kevin. So Kevin, how has your DE certification helped you deal with social injustice?
Thank you, Michelle. So I think I have two parts to this answer. One is it takes a village, and the other is understanding our purpose as financial cooperatives. So it takes a village. What I mean by that, community is key. And there's one thing to try to be active when something happens in social injustice, but first you have to energize yourself. You have to fill your own bucket. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of the AACUC, and they've created a safe space. I've said this in other platforms. I'm really not sure where I would be emotionally or mentally if I didn't have this safe space to understand that others were going through a similar experience as I. And I've tried to do my best to pay that forward and create that safe space for others. So I think that that's really key. And the DE program creates a larger community for you to engage with. The other is understanding our purpose as financial cooperatives. As Chad so eloquently said, being a DE connects what we do to why we do it. So people have needs all across this world, and we focus here in America, and they need institutions that care, that are empathetic, and that operate as community partners. And so I really think that the philosophy of people helping people is key to addressing injustice, and is just as powerful as it is when helping folks with their financial issues. So I'm hoping that we as a credit union movement can leverage our people helping people philosophy and help this nation get beyond the disease we call racism.
Thank you, Kevin. Angela, would you like to take a stab at that question as well? How has your DE certification helped you deal with social injustice?
For me, it has really opened my eyes to not only what goes on in the United States, but what goes on around the world. And it's given me language, and it's given me pause, I guess you would say, to realize that we're all learning and we're all going to make mistakes. And yet everyone is here to help each other up and not kick each other out of the discussion. So for me, I think what DE has done is really broaden my perspective beyond the world that I'm living in and what I experience on a day-to-day.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And so my next question is going to be, how has recent events affected or changed your family life? John, would you like to start with answering that question? How has recent events affected or changed your family life?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that one, Michelle. You know, it's interesting. I go back to actually last year. I had a real wake-up call. I attended a racial justice summit in Madison. CUNA Mutual actually is a big sponsor of the YWCA one. It's a huge event that goes on, and I was honored to be asked to go. And I was in a workshop talking about how do you talk about racism with your kids. And you know, my kids are just turned 6 and about to turn 8, and you know, I haven't talked that much with them about it. And you know, he really slapped me in the face with some reality. He said, you know, you're part of the problem by not having those discussions with your kids. And I acted on that feedback. That really resonated with me. That was probably one of my biggest takeaways from attending that event. You know, they watch the news with us now, and they see what's going on. They can see the wrong even at their age. And now we talk about it as a family. You know, they're more inquisitive. They ask questions. And, you know, my wife and I, we really encourage them to make friends with kids who don't look like them and stand up for people. You know, bullying is prevalent now with kids. And no matter if it's race or orientation or what, you know, be the ally. Don't be the part of the problem that's contributing to bringing other people down. And, you know, I had a really proud moment just last month. You know, the kids have had some gift cards from Easter and other events. They just haven't been able to go out at all shopping. And they both wanted to buy some new dolls. And they asked us, hey, Daddy, can we get some brown skin dolls? And it just made my heart happy when they asked that. So, you know, I feel like that feedback that was given to me last year, I'm actually acting on it now, and it's resonating with my kids, and that makes me happy.
Thank you, John. Chad, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, so how it's affected my family life, I'd say, to be honest, it hasn't affected it enough. I think sometimes it's easy to live in your bubble and say, this doesn't impact me. My wife and I have taken a real close look at how it does absolutely have something to do with us and my 1-year-old son that we're raising now. And to John's comments, I think what kind of person we want him to raise into and how we talk about him as with regard to race. And, you know, he's young now to probably understand a lot of that, but at the same time, we're trying to figure out ways we can help him grow into a person who can be anti-racist and look for ways to promote justice and equality. So I think my wife and I, like many of us right now, we've taken this time to listen and learn. We weren't oblivious to what some of the things going on were, but I think this has been a time where social justice and racial equality and so many of these issues now, our big thing now beyond listening and learning is not getting tired of it. It feels like for some people, it's like a news cycle, or there's an exhaustion from white people right now. And and we're fighting beyond that. We're trying to move into action, but be thoughtful about it. There was a comment before, you know, it's quick to move into action, but to not understand the problem first and present the wrong solution, that could be even worse. So I think it's been a lot of listening, learning, reflecting, but enduring also to be that ally long term. That's when it's important to us right now.
Great, thank you. Angela, I have a question for you.
Michelle, I'm sorry, can I answer that question too?
Absolutely.
I would like to answer it as well.
Yeah, after you,
Okay.
Latanya.
Jump in.
Okay. So I think for me, it definitely has changed affected my family. I'm the mom of 2 amazing kids. I have a 12-year-old daughter and I have a 20-year-old son that is a junior at Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm from Washington, D.C. Of course, I said that when I started. However, recently I relocated to Greensboro, North Carolina. Living in D.C., you know, growing up in D.C., you worry about black on black crime a lot. Every day. Recently, I had a friend that just lost a child that was murdered. That's 11. So moving to North Carolina was eye-opening because it's bigger than just black on black crime. It's different. Over the last couple of weeks, I did not know this until I had a conversation with my son because we didn't share it. He visited Florida where Trayvon Martin was murdered. Unfortunately, while he was there, he was called the N-word. And it was just really difficult for him. He got upset. I was not with him. Of course, he was with a friend. But just him telling me that and, you know, seeing that the events on the news as a mom is scary. And like you said, having a different conversations with your kids. Living here has been really different because they have the right to carry a weapon, concealed weapon. We're not used to that. So we went to a restaurant, and seeing that was just really difficult. It was really uncomfortable. Just knowing that, you know, I discovered throughout all of this that, you know, with racism and everything that's happening in the world, a lot of people are struggling with mental things that affect them with anxiety and depression and PTSD. So going through this over these last couple of months since George Floyd, it's been really difficult for me because I am struggling with that, with anxiety. So it's just been really different. And just trying to keep my kids motivated, positive, and keep them educated, and to know what's around them around the world. Because sometimes you can get so complacent, and that's how I feel. Living in D.C. for so long, it was just what was happening in the now, what was happening to me right there. But it's so much bigger than that. And so I'm grateful to be on the panel. I don't really talk much about racism, but I'm really, really grateful to be on the panel to learn more, so that I can be a better mom to my kids, I can make a bigger impact in my community, and within the credit union industry.
Thank you, LaTanya. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Kevin?
Yes. First and foremost, LaTanya, you're doing a fantastic job. You are a sweetheart. Every time I meet you, you make me smile. So you're doing a fantastic job. I'm glad to see you today. So you asked the question, more than welcome. You asked the question, how's it affected our family? So it's affected me. But I thought about this last night. And first and foremost, these events that have occurred are tragic, and my heart goes out to their families. We should do everything we can to make sure that their deaths are not in vain. So I just want to say that first. But with that said, unfortunately, these events are not aberrations. And I think it's really important for us to understand that, right? So, you know, there are some of us who die suddenly at the hands of police or criminals, in like the case of Ahmaud Arbery, right? Some of us die slowly as a result of untreated health conditions. Some of these are due to health inequity within our system today, but some of them are government sanctioned, like the Tuskegee experiment or Flint, Michigan, water crisis, right? Some of us have our lives taken away by the criminal justice system by being sent to prison. You know, mass incarceration means mass profits to some people. And some of us die slow from drug addiction. And I still struggle with, you know, today we have an opioid crisis that's impacting majority white people, and the response is an investment for help. When I was growing up, we had a crack epidemic that was impacting majority Black people, and the response was to get tough on drugs and send them to jail. And I say all this to say, you know, I've visited family in prison. I've visited family in the hospital from overdoses. And unfortunately, this has not impacted my family very much because this is business as usual for us. Do we talk about it? Sure, but this happens all the time. These injustices are not new. And so what has changed is that other people are interested in understanding these challenges and these struggles, which is why we're here today, right? So I wanted to share that because it hit me kind of hard that when I go see my father and when I speak to my mother, nothing's changed because this is business as usual in our life. So thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. And thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you sharing because, you know, we have been focusing on recent events, but we know that what's happening now is a culmination of things that have happened for many years and in different, it manifests itself in different ways, right? So the trauma is still there. Chad had mentioned the exhaustion. And I'm sure that each and every one of us can identify with having talked about, feeling some exhaustion. So thank you, Kevin, because we all feel what you feel, because we can relate to it. So thank you both for being so transparent. And panelists, anytime I ask a question and I don't call on you, feel free to chime in. This is all about meeting. And if it's something burning on your heart to share, I'm sure that it's something that resonates with the rest of us on the panel. And again, at the end of the day, we created this to have a safe space and a place for healing. So Angela, my question for you, as a gay, white, married woman, how has recent events affected and impacted you?
Thank you for asking that, Michelle. So one of the things that we've noticed, and I'm going to be real, is that
Please.
For some reason, white people are so afraid of making a mistake, of saying the wrong thing, of whatever it is, that they're not having the uncomfortable conversations with Black people. Maybe it's that they just don't know, they don't have Black friends, they don't know who to talk to. So what we've noticed, my wife and I have noticed, is that we're getting a lot more questions, we're getting a lot more interest in our lives, and it could be because this all kind of came to a head in June during Pride Month, but we've had a lot of people approaching us and saying, how can we be better allies? When we talk about being allies to the LGBTQ population, we don't want it to be in a silo. We don't want it to be that you're LGBTQ ally, but you don't support anybody else. We want everyone to know that we're supporting them. So we talk about shifting from a small a ally to a capital A ally. And a capital A ally is someone who will proudly wear a Black Lives Matter t-shirt or button or put it in their yard and not be afraid of the people that surround them, so that they know that we are showing outward signs that we are supporting everyone. So, we've had our share of issues and concerns. Those of you who know me well know that I spent 20 years working for the Credit Union National Association, and I didn't feel safe coming out. There are people on this call that I've never come out to. So hi, I'm a lesbian. And part of that is because I didn't want people to feel like, oh, everybody from Madison is gay or everyone from CUNA is gay. It was all these things that I made up in my mind, but I was afraid to come out. I was afraid of retaliation. I was afraid of discrimination. I was afraid of getting fired, or that I wouldn't get hired to speak. That I've set that all aside, because I know that what we're facing right now is bigger than me. It's bigger than my own personal safety. It's the first time in a long time that I've actually cried while I watched the news and cried when I've talked to friends. So for me, stepping up and being a capital A ally is really what I need to do right now. And it's what all of us need to do. So it's all well and good for people to talk to my wife, Lisa, and I about what it's like to be gay, but we don't end the discussion there. And that's really what's been shifting for us more right now than ever.
Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Angela, you're getting love through the chat. I want you to know that. So we thank you for sharing your story with us.
Hold on, Michelle. Hold on, Michelle. I just have to tell Angela, I'm a Black woman. I need you to know that. Okay?
I know that. Yes, I love you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was gonna say, that's what AACUC is about. At the end of the day, it's about togetherness. And that's what we want to build. That's why this platform was created, to bring us together. We all share a common bond. So We love you, and we love all of you. And we are so happy again that you are here. And we want everyone to, when they come, to feel welcome. We want everyone to feel safe. And we want everyone to feel that they have a team of support around.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
Absolutely. So when Renee and I were talking about this and having me be the rainbow in the Oreo sandwich here, really, if we take a look back in our history at other movements, at other protests, we've all been really, really siloed. It's been Black Lives Matter. It's been the gay pride movement. It's been NALCUP and what works well for Latinx people. All of those individual silos serve to hold us all back. Only by reaching out together and working together can we knock down racism, and can we knock down hatred and discrimination toward any marginalized population. So that's all I wanted to say. I mean, I know that at one point it was controversial to be gay and Black, and in a lot of areas it's still controversial to be gay and Black. So just putting it out there. We're here, we're queer, get used to it.
All right, very good. So Angela, you lead me into my next question. And this question I want every panelist to answer. And that question is, what does life without racism look like? And describe it, please. What does life without racism look like? Let's start with John and we'll go around.
Thanks, Michelle. I thought about this one a lot, and I would like to personally think we can eradicate racism. I think there's a few too many people whose minds are already made up, and that's unfortunate. I don't know that we'll change those minds. Personally, I've never seen this as a Black versus white thing. It's been about racist versus non-racist. As a white guy, being anti-racist, it's just not enough. We know our actions speak louder than words, and white people must recognize their privilege and use it as a means to help fix the problem. And I think we're starting to see more of that, which is where my optimism comes in. Personally, I make conscious efforts to mentor and create opportunities for others, whether it's offering my time, my talents, even my dollars to organizations that help marginalized people. And I want my kids to do the same, because I think each generation is how we have the opportunity to make this better. And it starts with fixing the system and making opportunities equitable for everybody. We have to hold our policymakers accountable for doing that and vote them out when they don't, quite frankly. As humans, we've got to look inside ourselves. We got to start viewing everyone as our brother or sister and embrace the differences that make each of us unique. I think from there, that's when we can start to see what life without racism looks like.
Thank you. Mary?
So as a parent of older teens, they're actually in their 20s, for me, what a better world looks like is something better for them. They have been extremely active in the protests that have been going on in both Atlanta and Los Angeles. And as a family, we've been active in voter rights registration. So for me, at the end of the day, I would like to be valued. I'd like everybody to be valued for who they are. And valued for what makes them different. I'm Jewish, right? So that's a little bit of a side hustle that I've got going on. It makes me a little bit different from some of my friends, right, Renee? So it's just, to me, at the end of the day, we need to be valued for what we can do to raise the bar for everybody. And we have a platform, we have an opportunity to do that, whether it's at work, at home, or in your community. So I think within the credit union community, we can lead the way. As we talk about and work towards financial inclusion, that's got to include inclusivity for everybody. So that's where I lay my hat at the end of the day.
Thank you. Kevin?
So like John, I spent a lot of time thinking about this one. I mean, when I read the question, I said, I have no idea. Like how do you ask a fish what it's like not to be in water? Like, it's an amazing question. The closest thing I think I've experienced to a world without racism is my trip to West Africa. Literally, I've never felt so welcome. You know, a queen told me, welcome home. You know, I've never been so represented. You know, I walked through parks and went to museums, and, you know, it looks like my cousin's he's in a bust in the museum, and it looks like my uncle and aunties are, you know, warriors in the park statues. And I'd never seen that before. It was an amazing feeling. Like, I was like, this is what it feels to be white in America. Like, it's amazing to have the pride that you must have when you walk around a park and you see people who look like you, and you don't know it's missing until you see it. And you're like, oh, I'm living in bizarro world, right? And so I was never so proud. So I think that's the closest I've been to it. I think everybody talks about racism and talk about their personal actions, which is fantastic. We all should work on our personal actions and behaviors. With that said, none of that's going to change anything if the system doesn't change. Period. Institutional racism must change. Everybody can be all nice and respect each other and embrace each other, but if we don't change the system, the inequity will continue, period. Last night, I spent some time, it took a while to find this, but it was a video called Race, the Power of Illusion. And the episode was The House We Live In. And it spoke to government-sanctioned racist housing policies, also known as redlining. And it talked about how veterans came back from, I think, World War II, and they had the GI Bill, supposed to be able to give them the opportunity to buy a home. But if you were a Black veteran, you just, you know, spent your time fighting for your country, they wouldn't sell you a house in certain areas, right? And so you had to go to an area that was less affluent, that was redlined, and therefore wouldn't appreciate in value. And then if you did get lucky enough to get one of those houses because you sent your white friend in to get it for you, so they didn't know who they was actually selling it to, as soon as you moved in, the white folks moved out. So all the appreciation and the value left. And that's important to understand that was like in the 60s. This is like the 40s, this is like the 50s and the 60s. This is not long ago. And for all of us in America, value is passed from generation to generation, primarily through real estate. It's primarily through giving your children a house, or leveraging that house to send them to school. And so we all live with the output of those racist government-sanctioned policies today. That's a glaring example, but there are many other glaring examples and subtle examples that we all live with every single day. So if we want to live in a world without racism, we must take a hard look at the institutional racism that exists in our country, in addition to our own personal journeys. Thank you, Michelle.
Great. That's part of the social contract that's being broken, huh? Okay.
Don't get me started on the social contract, Michelle.
Okay, if we have time, we may come back at the end. All right, Angela, would you like to answer?
You know, I see what Kevin has said and echo so much of it, because it's so hard to imagine what that world could look like. When my wife and I bought the home that we're living in now, we were looking for a house that was all on one level because I've got bad knees. And we ended up in a very, very white, and what we were afraid was a very conservative neighborhood. It was only because there were signs in one of the neighbors' yards that it's the Kindness Matters sign, and it starts with Black Lives Matter, love is love, science is real. It's got all of those things listed on it. Because we saw that sign, we thought, well, at least we'll have one ally in our neighborhood. We'll have one family that will welcome the lesbian couple. We haven't always been welcomed in every neighborhood that we've been in either. So to me, the day when we can buy a house exactly where we want to buy, where we can shop exactly where we want to shop, where we can put up pictures of our family in our office when we go back to an office, and not fear what other people will think and fear for our own lives. That to me is what this world is going to look like. And I'm laughing inside just a little bit because we have a new couple that is moving in 2 doors down from us. And Lisa came home from walking the dog and said, "Hey, I met the new people moving in." I said, "Tell me about them," hoping that they had just a speck of diversity. She's like, "Average white couple with 2 kids." I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "They're straight, right?" She's like, "Yeah, well." So we're wanting to get more diversity in our neighborhood. We want to make sure that people know they're welcome. So we're putting up our signs. We're being outwardly allies as much as we can, because it is hard to imagine what life would be like to be able to navigate the world without worrying about, is someone going to hurt us or follow us or threaten us or call us names. So
And that's
it'll
what we
be,
all
it'll come.
Yeah. Latanya.
Yes. So life without racism for me, I thought about that really hard. One of the things a couple of things is to live freely, to be able to live freely, to be able to not be judged, to be valued. One of the things, attending AACUC conference, I listened to Kevin say how he traveled and he felt so welcome. So I feel like the opposite. So I've attended several conferences over the years, and I was the only African American at one of the conferences I attended for at least 5 years. And it was difficult because I was the only African American. I was just so used to being, a certain way, raised a certain way. And when I went there, it was just really relaxed. And I remember my first experience at AACUC was just totally different. And I got out of the habit of, I guess, who I was and how I was raised, because I was raised, my mom, you always have to have your hair done, dressed really nice. When I attended the different conferences, it was relaxed, khakis and, sandals. It's different at the AACUC conference. And then attending the AACUC conference, even though it's an African American Credit Union Coalition, it is the most welcoming conference ever in the world. Freely, no one's being judged. We love everybody. And I can appreciate that. If the world could be like how we operate and how AACUC operate and how we come together that one time a year, that feels like this huge family reunion, it'll be amazing. So just living freely. But I do have one thing I want to say at the end, quote, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So I think that if people just change their mindset, sit back and evaluate themselves, everybody, and the world would be so much different if we can just all look at self and just change your mindset, not look at the color of a person's skin. Give each other the same opportunity. It shouldn't be about being privileged. That's my take.
Thank you, Latanya. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
All right, now Chad.
So a world without racism would be one that holds up highest the idea of compassion, that there's strength in compassion. It doesn't mean that there's a fluff or intangibility with it. Compassion literally means to suffer together. And there's 2 components of compassion. There's empathy and there's reason, and tilt towards action. So if we could build a society that prioritizes and teaches how to be compassionate, it breeds love and curiosity and all the things that would help us to end racism and to attack it in a systemic way. One of the key lessons that we talk about as DE at DE training is that there is no us and them, there is only us. And we think that problems affect them, and we use them as this subject all the time to talk about problems. And it's one world, one community, everyone's together in this. And so that idea of compassion and credit unions being the place where we can operationalize compassion. We're empathetic every day, understanding the problems of our members and being able to act on that. So being some of that systemic change that we need to spark that, to get that started. It seems like such a big problem, but in credit unions, we've got such a great opportunity to take this idea of compassion and put it into action, whether it's in our processes or products and services or how we treat each other, our coworkers and members. There's so many opportunities ahead, and I'm so glad we're sharing these ideas out in so many different formats, but compassion being a tool that we need to get there.
Great. Thank you, Chad. Thank you. So now, Mary, let me ask you, what have you personally learned during this season?
So it's been horrifying to watch the news, obviously. And to Kevin's point, it's painful to think that it took a camera for it to come to light, and for so many people to get involved. So there's a lot of negative that I've learned, that it wasn't in terms of everybody just rallying around the cause. It's surprising to me when I still have to explain all lives matter. While I see that, it just makes me cringy. There's been so many moments, even listening to some of Kevin's discussions today. And LaTanya, I'm from North Carolina, so to hear what's happening and to hear what your son went through down in Florida, it's just cringy. So there's so many pieces of that can just make you get inside of yourself to a very sad place. But what I have learned this time to make me feel a little bit more optimistic is that there is a sense of community that's rallying. I've been impressed by a lot of American corporations rallying and making commitments to measure and metrics, because you've got to start, if something, not now, when, right? You've got to start somewhere. What happened with the GIs coming home is atrocious. And it's been a continuation of that has happened. And those, if you have a chance, turn on PBS, they have some of those documentaries on, and it's horrifying to know what has happened and gotten us to this point. But where I feel like now, with the visibility, having 30-somethings that are charged up and going and not stopping and not giving up, I just feel a lot more optimistic. But I do think we have the power to make a change. There's a lot of folks that have the platform, and we're going to have to start in our own shops. We got to bite the elephant one piece at a time. And so by starting in our shops and in our families, we are making a difference. I think we have the AACUC to help keep us in check, to make sure we keep our foot on the gas towards financial inclusion and all the other efforts that are going along with this. So we can't stop. But as many of the cringy moments I've seen, there's been so many heartwarming moments that have balanced this out, that I just feel like we have a chance now to make an impact. You know, I know from where I grew up to now, I feel like the community is much different. I live in Atlanta in a very ethnically diverse community. We are not economically diverse. So we have an opportunity there to make a difference and take care of each other. But learned a lot at my DE training, starting with empathy, and just putting yourself in someone else's shoes has been just critical for this whole piece.
Great, thank you. So being that we have DEs who are problem solvers, this is for all of the panelists. If you had the ability to create a DE project for the nation that would bring healing, what would your DE? So I want all of you to chime in and tell me about this project. Don't all go at once.
I can go, Michelle, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm gonna quote Renee here, because you know, something in her recent op-ed really stuck with me, and I think it holds a whole lot of credibility as a potential DE project. And I'm gonna read this so I don't mess it up, but it's my belief that if people get to know one another, see their fellow band woman as a person, talk about their challenges, struggles, and successes, that kind of interaction would break down barriers. And she's spot on, right? So I was thinking about a project really focused on bringing diverse groups of people together to do just that. You know, think about like Walk in My Shoes project. You know, and it's not all that different from the life simulation you do at DE, which was just another one of those defining moments that really taught some hard realities. You know, and if you think about it, you know, it's like DE in other ways too. You bring people together from different areas, different backgrounds, different roles, and they come together to co-develop solutions that improve society. You know, those bonds are strong and they help you appreciate what other people bring to the table, but you've got to have those discussions and you've got to see what people bring to the table in order to appreciate what they bring to the table. So, you know, I think if we can bring diverse groups of people together and have those conversations and interactions, we're going to be a much stronger nation. You know, Tanya talked about the AACUC conference. That was another one of those defining moments for me. It was life-changing, you know, to go to a conference where you're, where it feels like a family reunion. I mean, that was incredible. I formed so many new bonds that week, and I came home on cloud 9 after that, and it just gave me a whole new appreciation for how we can all work together to solve these problems. So, you know, I think if we're coming up with a DE project, that's one that I think we could really make an impact with.
So Michelle, I can jump in. So something that I was thinking about, similarly to how you might have a pen pal somewhere, that if we could connect members of the AACUC with members of another organization, a credit union organization, to make that interaction happen. So how do we a network, sort of like Tinder for anti-racism? Can we do something there to meet people where they need to be? So I had the pleasure with Renee a couple of years ago. We started the Women's Professional Series within the AACUC to help women get professional development, and there's a lot more we can do on that. We're keeping that running year after year, but that was our DE project as a start. But I think those connections through some kind of connecting the networks of people together. So we have AACUC, we have CUNA, we have NAFCU, we have all of these divergent groups. How do we pull them together? Well, let's figure out a way to be really deliberate about that.
Great. Right. Kevin, would you like to go next?
Sure. I struggle with this one. You know, I started thinking about, you know, the personal things that I mentioned earlier, you know, how you can help people, you know, get out their own way. And I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. So I decided to focus on systems. So I think I do two things. This is me dreaming big. You know, I'm like Renee. I'm trying to dream big. You know, you shoot for the moon, right? I would do away with the electoral college system. That would be my DE program project. I think that the system is not representing the people, and I think the people are much further along in this conversation than our government officials are, and I would give the people back their government. Two, everybody who's elected to office, particularly at the federal level, I would make them live at the median income in their district for 6 months, so that they can gain some empathy and perspective for the average constituent, for the average voter. And my hope is that that would inform their decisions going forward, because I think a lot of people live on this hill and this ivory tower, and they are not connected to the people. Again, so, you know, that's Kevin big dreaming, but that's what will be my DE project.
Well, Kevin, according to the chat, I think that people are wanting you to run for office. You have their vote. So I think you need to think about getting your candidate papers out here. All right. Let's go with Chad next.
I should have shot for the moon like Kevin. I love those ideas. I think of always what kind of change can we create with the DE project. DE, a big part of that too, and why we're talking about projects, is it's all about action. How do you take philosophy and put it into action? I would love to, if you could imagine a world where every employee and volunteer who works in a credit union or supports a credit union understand what our values and principles were and could personally connect to those. I feel like what I've seen over the years is sometimes a disconnect. People see it as just a job working in credit unions, and we have such an opportunity to change people's lives every day in credit unions. So my project's focused on kind of our own house, but what if we could give people the insight to say, you work for an organization that is trying to drive change and to get people on board with the idea, again, that these development issues and diversity, equity, inclusion, these aren't things that happen over there. These aren't things that impact our credit unions in some outside way. These are things that our own employees and members and ourselves, we all face them. So, but getting that passion, that purpose instilled in everyone who works for us. We have such a network of talented and amazing people within our own walls. And if we could turn that into an army of people who do small DE projects, kind of a project to lead to other projects, I think people, once they see that purpose in our business, that drives them to do more and do better. So it would be to inspire the people who work for us and help them in everything we're talking about here.
Great, thank you. Latanya?
Yes. For me, when I thought about this, I thought about it from a national level and community, but something is in my spirit is just about mindset and healing. You're talking about healing and having a safe space, and Kevin mentioned it's normal. I don't watch the news because it's normal to hear about killing. So for me, it's more of a awareness and understanding to those that do suffer from different ailments, and not making them feel like it's like they're less than, and making them, letting people understand that you can still be normal but still have these health or mental things that's happening in your life. So for me, my DE project would be to just bring awareness and create a safe space for healing as it relates to racial trauma.
Great. Thank you, Latanya. And Angela?
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So I have two projects in mind. They're not as big as national. They're much more individual, company-wise and person-wise. The first one I'm calling Pass the Baton. Y'all are tired. Y'all have been fighting this your whole lives. For 400 years, you've been fighting this. We have just stepped into the arena with you in the last several months. We need to have a network for our African-American brothers and sisters to be able to pass that baton so that we can fight the fight for you and side by side with you, and then pass it back when you've got your strength back. I've made some very, very good friends over the last few months because I haven't been that person lurking in the shadows on social media. If I see someone attacking one of my friends, I'm stepping up and stepping in. Not to say that they can't do it themselves, but they're tired. So hand me the baton. I'll take it as long as you need. When you tap me on the shoulder, I know you're ready to take it back again. So that's on a one-on-one level. Then as far as company level, there's something in schools that's called the Bystander to Ally program, where we're teaching kids that kind of like the TSA, if you see something, say something. Stop being afraid to step up and step in when you see someone being treated badly. There's a statistic that says that 40% of us make a snap judgment as to whether or not someone can afford a product or service, or whether or not they'd qualify for a product or service without them even opening their mouths. So we need to step into that and say, look, this is not good. This is not how we're going to create financial stability across all populations. So bystander to ally would get people to understand where their biases lie and to feel more brave and less fearful about stepping into the arena of the discussions.
Great, thank you. Well, Angela.
And Kevin Martin in 2020.
Okay, that's going to be the new sign, Kevin Martin 2020, right? I've already seen it in the chat room, and now Angela has said it, so I think it's done. That's confirmation, Kevin.
Speaking in existence.
That's the last thing y'all want, I assure you.
Well, you know, I tell you, I was thinking as Angela was talking, and then she took the words right out of my mouth. I thought about, was thinking about John Lewis, and I was thinking when he was saying, see something, say something, and then she turns around and she says it. And so at 1:59, and, you know, this is really great, and I hate to leave you all, you know, but I think, you know, another John Lewis is that let's, get good trouble. Let's get in good trouble. So if we see something wrong, then we say something about it. We do something about it. DEs, you are the leaders on that front, being the development educators, but everyone on this call is capable of doing the exact same thing. And if we continue to work as a collective body, we know that we can make that happen. And now it is 2 o'clock, so I will let you go. I appreciate everyone coming today. This has been phenomenal. Panelists, thank you so much. I've enjoyed having each and every one of you. And I can tell by the chat that the audience really appreciates what you have said. And so with that, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, but thank you. And we will see you again next week. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.